Good day, YouTube. I'm Daniel Claremont. I'm the Acadian therapist. I am so excited to welcome you back this week because I've been practicing for a while. I've been trying to develop my technical skill in making videos, so it's been my intention for a while to create a big budget, well put together, well crafted video, and I think I'm finally ready for it. I think I've got the skills for it to give you a good big budget experience that you certainly do deserve. So what we're going to talk about today, it builds on the window of tolerance model that we had talked about earlier. But we're going to go a bit more in depth. So we're going to talk about, and I've been putting together graphics for a while, so we're going to put together this model. I hope that you like it, to help explain how your brain works and why sometimes we tell ourselves to calm down, it doesn't work out so well. So, all right, without further ado, here we go.
Since the beginning of time, people have wanted to understand why their mind works the way it does, how to change it. If only there was a simple way to understand all this biology and science stuff.
So, I'm afraid I don't actually have a budget, but that's okay. What we're gonna do is I'm gonna give you a very simple version that you can explain to your kids, you can explain to your parents. So to give a little bit of a representation for how your brain processes information. So I'm gonna use my hand. Now this model comes from, as I mentioned in my really detailed introduction card, Daniel Siegel's work. He calls it the hand model of the brain. It also builds on Stephen Porges' work on polyvagal. Stay with me. We're not going to get super complicated. I'll link to that below if you're interested in learning more about it. I do like his explanation, but we'll stick with Daniel Siegel's model. So we're going to talk about your nervous system. So your nervous system is basically how your body picks up on what's going on in the world. It picks up the signals from everything that you hear, everything you see, everything you taste, as well as everything that's going on inside your body. So it will actually give you those signals like, your stomach being, queasy, or your heart beating faster, that tension that you get. Temperature, everything. So everything that you sense goes up through your nervous system. So there are nerves everywhere in your body. And it goes up your spinal column, which I'm going to represent as here. So this represents your spinal column. The next stop is what they call the lizard brain. Now they call it that because we have it in common with lizards. It's part of the brain stem. And then the next stop is in the very center of the brain, which I'm going to represent with my thumb here. So that's what's called the limbic system. It's also known as sort of the emotional system. Now these brain structures, we actually have that in common with basic animals. We have it in common with chickens. We have it in common with my guy back here. So, we have, that's why they call it the mammal brain. I call it the gatekeeper. So this is the part that is picking up on all the signals that come in from the world and what comes in about your own body, your own sense of things. And the job of this guy here, this person here, is to say, do I need to react to this? Is there a threat? Is there something that I need to respond to? And if there's not, well, the signals will just go on pretty much uninterrupted to the rest of the brain. And so I'm going to represent it like this. And so, the technical term for that is, the cortexes. So basically, whenever you think about a brain, what mental image you have, that gray blob, what you can see, that's your cortex. So that's that thinking part of the brain, especially the very front part of the brain, very, very front right there. So that is the part that you're using when you're thinking calmly, when you're analyzing, when we can remember the facts that we want to write, in a test, or, when you're feeling relaxed, when you're feeling comfortable with people, when you're feeling comfortable with yourself. So that's that thinking brain. But first off, it has to get past the gatekeeper. Now, the gatekeeper is an older brain system. It is incredibly efficient at keeping you alive. The example that I will often give in session is if there's a loud bang outside, it's not very likely that I'll say, "Oh, that's odd. That's the darndest thing. There's not normally a bang. Huh. It was kind of startling. I think I'm gonna just be startled. I think I'm gonna jump." No, not at all. I jump, then I ask myself, why am I jumping? That's how it works, because your brain's job is not to write taxes, it's not to write tests, it's not to use your please and thank yous, as much as it hurts a Canadian to admit that. It is about survival. It is about our basic reflexes. It's because we are descended from ancestors that, depending on your philosophy, thousands of years ago or millions of years ago, had to survive in a very dangerous world. So we are the descendants of kind of the cowards, the ones that as soon as there was a threat, they ran for the hills. That gatekeeper was very, very efficient. This thinking brain, that is fairly new to our species, where it's not as efficient, it's not as good, because there's not as much survival advantage to, well, let me think carefully and evaluate the situation. I mean, that's really great if you want to build a city. That's really great if you want to plan a detailed vacation and whatnot. That's fine. But in terms of survival, we need those instant reflexes. That's why the gatekeeper is still very, very efficient. Now, give us a few million years, maybe our brains will be more evolved in a different way. And so maybe we'll be better thinkers, but I have my doubts. It's a very efficient system and it works very, very well for keeping us alive, but it doesn't help us get along with people. By the way, this is why when we tell ourselves to calm down, it doesn't work so well, because the message telling us to calm down comes from that front part of the brain. This is a very different system. So whether it's our own brain telling us that we need to settle down, or someone else's brain saying you need to calm down, not going to work, because when you try to tell yourself to calm down, if this thing perceives there's danger, you're going to, what Siegel calls, flip your lid. So we're feeling kind of calm, we're feeling okay, there's a reaction, we flip our lid. Now this is something that you can teach children. Kids, you can teach this to your parents. You can give the language of saying, even just noticing, hey, I'm going to flip my lid. I need to take a walk. I need to breathe. You are all sick of hearing me talk about grounding strategies, but that is basically what we're talking about. You're on your way out of your window of tolerance. Window, not so much. So even just noticing your reactions, being aware. Now, noticing lives in that front part of the brain, so we need to practice it. And by the way, that part of the brain is still developing until around age 25 or 30. Now that doesn't mean that younger people are off the hook. It just means you have to practice. You are building this brain. So you keep at it. You keep noticing your reactions. Noticing when you're about to flip your lid, when you're about to have an emotional reaction to something. Sometimes there are warning signs that we can catch. When we catch it earlier, we get better at taking care of ourselves so we don't have those emotional reactions. Either the big explosive ones where maybe we're punching holes in walls, hopefully not in people, but we're having those very intense reactions. And even more minor, so noticing some irritability, noticing some frustration, that you just start to, tense up different things. The more we practice noticing, just noticing, not commanding, not giving orders, this gets to notice things. It doesn't get to control the emotional reactions. But if it notices that we're in trouble, I need to take a walk, then maybe we get out of the situation before this freaks out too much and either shuts us down or gets us freaking out or paralyzed. By the way, it also causes brain fog, as we had talked before, but I do like to emphasize that point because we forget. We think that little things like Mondays are just meh, just normal, or spacing out in exams or whatnot. Those are just normal experiences that we have. But these are all symptoms of flipping the lid. So if we recognize it, if we're able to help calm ourselves a little bit, this part settles down, thinking brain is able to come back online. Grounding, relaxation strategies, distraction, we've talked about it before, but I just like to give this biological explanation. It also probably leads us into a discussion of mindfulness. Most people have heard about mindfulness. I'm going to have a little bit more research and get ready to have a better discussion about that, because I do see a benefit, but it depends what you're using it for. In the meantime, folks, that's all I had for today. So if you like this video, share, subscribe, you know the drill. I'm not going to keep hassling about that. And in the meantime, hopefully you can keep your lids on okay. If you have anything else, get back to me, and I'm happy to answer any questions. All right, take care. Bye-bye.